Welcome back, beautiful people. How are we doing? This is the last session. I can't believe it. It's been 4 days of transformation, fun, learning, adventures, and mistakes in the kitchen with Luke. But now we're not going to have any mistakes. It's going to be smooth sailing. And this looks absolutely divine. And my next guest is going to be showing us how to revive our gut health, restore our gut health, support our gut health, which is a key topic that everyone's talking about right now, especially with the popularity of the microbiome. And she's going to be doing that through teaching us how to make water kefirs and telling us a little bit about her story. Her name is Felicity Evans. She is the founder of Imbibe and Imbibe Living, and they do water kefirs, and she's got a book out as well, which looks really beautiful, about helping you make this at home. So let's give her a warm welcome, Felicity Evans.
Thanks, James.
Love that hair.
Quite a long walk. Washed it just for you.
Smells good.
Yeah, but I've been dousing myself in lavender oil and rescue remedy. Hi, everyone. Who's been here for the 4 days doing the festival? Most of you. Great. Have you been camping? No. Some of you? I have been. How's the mud and the rain been? This is the one dress that I've been hanging up in the tent, not allowing my kids to make it dirty. So thank you so much for coming. I'm Felicity. Thanks, James, for the intro. So I could stand here and put on my expert hat and tell you how amazing your gut is, and I will do that, don't worry, but that's not where I'm going to start. I'd first like to tell you a story about my pain and some of the challenges that I've been through that have helped me become a woman. It wasn't easy, and sometimes when you have to learn to trust your gut, look deep within your gut, you become gutsy, and that is often where the magic unfolds. And certainly in my life, that's where the magic has unfolded, where I've trusted my gut. I never, ever in a million years set out to start a drinks company. I never thought that I'd be invited to write a book that's now been published in 5 countries and languages that I can't even speak, 2 foreign languages. I never thought that I'd be invited onto the Food Matters stage to speak at Wanderlust. But it's amazing when you trust your gut, how magic unfolds, and that's what's happened. A few years ago, I had a process of becoming. Has anybody else here gone through a similar process? Yeah. Maybe it's a job you've needed to leave, or a partnership you've needed to dissolve, or a country you've needed to move to, or something that's been challenging and difficult. This is what's happened to me. I call it my awakening. It's a bit better than calling it a breakdown, which when I was going through, that's exactly what it felt like. My story starts here. That is me, and no, I'm not standing on a table. That is my Guatemalan mama. So I was living with her high up in a village in Guatemala, surrounded on an island, surrounded by a lake, in this beautiful, pristine place. And she is literally the size of my 7-year-old. She's got 8 of her own children, and she nursed me back to health. I was staying there because I'd had 6 months traveling with my husband, and we'd had picked up a string of diseases, illnesses, all that stuff when you travel to third world countries. So I'd gone to this place for a bit of a respite. And I lived on her mud floor. And you can see behind, those tortillas. So every morning she'd roll out the corn tortillas and make me a beautiful breakfast. And she nursed me back to health. And one of the ways that she nursed me back to health was through a magical drink. I had no concept of what it was. But I saw it in a vase like this, bubbling in her kitchen, in her mud kitchen. I saw it bubbling away. And every day she'd pour it out for me and give me a couple of cups to drink. Within a couple of weeks of living with her and studying Spanish, I felt better, and I was back off on my adventures, off to Colombia. This is my lovely husband and I. He's got much better hair now. He's got a bit of a buffy 70s haircut going out. So that was New Year's Eve in Colombia. There was a man behind us making nougat, and he would, I don't know if anybody's been there, but he would throw the nougat against the tree, and it would be like elastic, and it was sugary and sweet and absolutely delicious. And if I ate it now, I would probably get sick from it, but at that stage it was absolutely wonderful. Of course, we met and got married, and 12 years, haven't changed a bit, no more wrinkles or anything like that. Had 2 beautiful babies. This is straight after birth. That's my baby Grace. And another one. Look at how absolutely chubby and beautiful she is. Life was always just very normal with young kids around, They were always very nice to each other. They were never weird in strange places. Perfect table manners. And breakfast, was just an ordinary affair. No tigers rushing out or anything like that. All in all, you could say life was pretty peachy. Looking at me now, you won't see that, but I was actually the poster girl for mastitis. Does anybody know what mastitis is? I see some women nodding in sympathy, so I feel you. So for everybody else, mastitis is an excruciating breastfeeding infection that some women get when they're breastfeeding. I happen to get it over and over and over and over and over. So for my first baby, who's there on the right, I had it 3 times in 3 months. I was okay, but I ended up going twice to hospital for IV antibiotics. I had absolutely no concept that what antibiotics do. I'm sure you're all Wanderlust people, so you know. But I had no idea how they strip your gut, and they obviously I needed them at the time, but I didn't know what to do to repair them after. My second baby, the mastitis was chronic, unrelenting, and excruciating. I had it 10 times in 10 months. The infection would get so bad that my breasts would be inflamed up to my armpits. They would be purple. I thought that I had cancer. I thought that I was dying. I thought, what is wrong with me? Why can't I feed my baby? I felt absolutely alone, ashamed, that I couldn't be the kind of wife and mother that I desperately wanted to be for my babies. And it absolutely was an exhausting period of my life. So who can relate to that, going through something like that? And I had no one. I was in a new city. I was absolutely alone. After about 10 months, and people always ask me, why did you keep breastfeeding? My baby wouldn't take a bottle. So I had to just keep feeding her. Sometimes she would pull off and my nipples would be cracked. They would be bleeding. It was very, very excruciating. But after about 10 months, I could come up for air. And I started to research. Basically, I wasn't living the kind of life that I wanted to live. I wanted to be like you. I wanted to be like Wanderlust woman, with like the yoga pants on and doing the vinyasa and just like, looking amazing in your skinny jeans. That was not me. I was sick and alone. And I thought, right, I want to become that woman. I want to get back to that woman. What am I going to do? And so when my babies were having a nap, I'd go to Google. And through my research, I uncovered some secrets. And those secrets are about your amazing gut and how incredible it is to an amazing life. So what could I do to help my gut get better? What's this? Oh, becoming the alchemist. I became the alchemist. What I learned from my Googling times when my kids were napping was that your gut is the centerpiece of an incredible life. And if you can nourish and restore it, and one of the ways to do that, it's not the only way, and I never say that these drinks are the only thing to do. It's one tool in your toolbox to an amazing life. One of the things you can do is to nourish and feed your gut through living probiotic drinks. And one of the drinks that I was particularly drawn to was a drink called water Kefir. So I went onto eBay, bought myself some cultures, and started my kitchen trials. My kitchen became my dispensary. My cultures became my obsession. My husband would get home from work and it would be like something, like every jar would be pulled out of the cupboards. It was mayhem. Basically, I became the alchemist, and he would walk in and see everything fizzing and popping and bubbling around, and he'd go, oh my goodness, it's been one of those days again. And I'd say, yes, it has. And the reason is because this drink, water Kefir, made me feel amazing. It made me feel alive again. And when I'd had my first drink of water Kefir, and we're going to hand some out a bit later, the taste is fresh and sparkling and light and fizzy. And when I tasted it, it was the same taste that my mama had given me in Guatemala. And when I linked those two things together, I'm getting shivers now just thinking about it. When I linked those two things together, it had hit me that this is what I was supposed to be doing. So I created these drinks and had a great time doing it. They made me feel great. My health had improved dramatically. I still wasn't perfect, still isn't, but I was like 100 times better than what it was. Word soon spread, and my friends started to come knocking on my door. Can I have some of the fizzy drink? Nobody could say water kefir. People, 5 years ago, nobody really knew what this drink was. So they'd knock on the door. So I'd leave a note. If you're here for the fizzy drink, slip your money under the door and don't wake the baby. And word spread about these magical drinks, and soon I was asked by a store to stock my range. So what did I do? Had to create a range. So, I started to work with beautiful ingredients and created a beautiful range of water kefir drinks. And of course I had to enlist some little helpers. Whoops. There they are, polishing the bottles, delivering them out of the back of a milk crate to our local stores. They say if you look back at your very first, product and you're not embarrassed, you've waited too long. So I'm very embarrassed by the first label. Very early morning starts, bottling the drink. I had very cheap labor. It's my very first labeling machine. And this will give you a little insight. Tell Mummy, what are you doing?
I'm washing the bottles.
Yeah, what for?
For the shop. For the shop.
Yeah, these are all going to go off. Oh, careful. These are going to go off to the shop today.
Yeah.
Here they all are. And you turn around. Look at that. Full of product. Been working since 5 a.m. Here are my two little helpers. Sweet. So that gives you an insight. We've gone far away from there, still a little bit in our processing, but that's where I started. So what happened was I turned my mess into my mission. And my mission is to help inspire you that radical wellness is possible. You might already be super duper well and healthy, and that's great. You can go further. You might be going through some health challenges like myself, and I'd love to inspire you to know that health is possible when you focus first on your gut as one thing to your overall amazing life. So, and also just to know your story doesn't end just because there was a bad chapter. Keep reading. So what is it that I love so much about the gut? It's the home of glowing skin, beautiful hair. It's where around 20 different hormones are made and synthesized. It connects directly to your brain via the vagus nerve. It's the body's largest sensory organ, literally telling your brain what is going on inside. Have you ever been to an event or felt nervous about something? What happens? You feel it in your gut. You might go to the toilet. Yeah, butterflies in your tummy, seeing somebody new. It is literally your body's biggest sensory organ. And I actually don't think we give our guts enough praise. It is really an incredible organ. Firstly, immunity. So around 80% of your immunity is actually made and housed in your gut. Who knew that? One person knew that. Right, 80% of your immunity is made and housed in your gut. So for an incredibly amazing life, to get to so that you're not getting ill all the time, first point of defense is to focus on your gut health. And I'm going to show you that in a minute. The next cornerstone of gut is digestion. So often we think about just dumping food into our gut and don't really think about the intricate process of what's happening there. And I'd like to, inspire you to know that I believe that digestion first starts in the mind. What do you think about your food? How much gratitude do you have towards it? How much respect you have for the farmers and the suppliers who have grown the food and put it on your table, right? So that's the first part where digestion starts. Hops down to your mouth, obviously. Who here reckons, how many times do you think you chew before you swallow? You say 30. You think you do chew 30 times? You try to, yeah. So that's what we should be doing, chewing 20 to 30 times before we actually swallow. I'm a working mum, I probably chew twice. And then I inhale, right? So think about chewing your food. Think about taking a deep breath before you start eating, because what that's going to do is it'll take you further to dropping you down into parasympathetic, where rest and digest happens, where you can rest and relax, so that when your stomach does receive food, it's better equipped to start to digest it. And then well-being. 80% of serotonin, which is your feel-good hormone, is made in your gut. Right? So we have growing anxiety, growing depression around, and I believe that if we start to focus on our gut, we can increase our serotonin, and that way we'll all feel much better mentally. Those are the 3 ways that I believe focusing on your gut health is incredible for an amazing life. How do we get great guts? Well, we can focus on fermentation, and that's what I'm going to teach you today. So fermentation comes from the Latin word fervere, where we get fever from. So it means like to boil, to get hot. And that's what happens during fermentation. We literally put a flat collection of ingredients together, and they start to work, they start to ferment to create something that's fizzing, bubbling, and alive. I love it because it's given me a community. Look at everybody here. It's given me health back in spades. It's given me a way of doing life, of being in touch with the seasons and the rhythm of the seasons. If you've got excess of garlic, or if you're lucky enough to have an orchard, you can ferment your fruits. You can ferment anything, and that way you can create a more long-lasting harvest. And also when you ferment, it also increases the nutrient profile of those ingredients. And it also is a moving meditation. So when you're fermenting, you tune into your senses. You taste, smell, touch, hear. It really, in our fast-paced life, it's an invitation to us to just slow down and see what you're doing and what you're creating. I mean, I think so many of us have moved so far away from actually creating in our kitchen, actually being involved in the production of our food and fermentation. I think it's a wonderful gift that fermentation gives us to just drop back into the creative space. It's so fun. You can have so much fun fermenting. That reminds me, I used to be known, during my crazy obsessive stage, I used to be known as Felicity Fermentation. So I'm glad nobody calls me that anymore. So who would like to try some water kefir? Everybody, great. So I've got some lovely helpers, and today I'm going to teach you how to make 2 different kinds of water kefir from start to finish. There's a completely free ebook on my website that you can just download, and then you'll have all the instructions with a video tutorial. So we're going to taste a coconut and pineapple water kefir, and we're also going to taste a watermelon and mint water kefir. And if you guys need more, there's some more here. So my helpers will start to bring those around. Does anybody have any questions for me at this stage? Yeah. They're all vegan, 100%. Yeah, everything's vegan. Yeah. Great. And I should say with water kefir, there's 2 kinds. There's milk kefir, which you can make vegan using coconut cream or coconut milk, almond milk, and there's water kefir. So we're going to focus on water kefir. Both are delicious, but just for today, we'll focus on water kefir. Here it is fermenting, and if I tap it, you might be able to see some bubbles. Can anybody? No, it's not on. There's some bubbles coming up. Can you see that? And that's the fermentation process happening. Yeah. Yes, so the question was, is the culture, are the grains different for water and milk? And the answer is yes, they're completely different cultures, and you can't mix them. They have to be kept separate. Yeah. I think that all ferments are great. So it just depends the best ferment for you to have is the one that you're going to drink the most. In our home, we drink mostly water kefir, I guess, because it's light and refreshing, but most mornings, at least 5 mornings out of a week, I'll make my daughters a smoothie using milk kefir, which I do with frozen banana, frozen berries, exactly the same as you would do a normal smoothie, but you just do your milk kefir. And it can be coconut milk, almond milk too. And I actually use my milk kefir and make a coconut cream too, like a sour cream. Yeah. Okay, let's get fermenting. Yeah? So the first thing you'll need is a jar. Just got a 1 liter jar. Like I said, all the instructions are on the website for you to do these. These are the grains that we offer. So they are, I'll just tip them in here. I'm not on a video. They're called grains, but there's nothing grainy about them. They're soft cauliflower, gel-like crystals, really. You can't make them, you have to buy them. They don't just like appear, you have to get them. So they use sugar to ferment. So everybody starts to freak out when I say the word sugar, but don't freak out. The sugar is just there to ferment. It's not, by the end of fermentation, all the sugar is eaten up, and you'll taste that when you taste the drink. They're not sweet, so the sugar is eaten up. So don't be afraid of sugar. And no, you can't use stevia, you can't use honey or agave. It has to be sugar, people. Okay? So we get 1/4 cup of sugar. It's actually raw sugar. Yeah, but you can, so the question was, what kind of sugar is it? I use raw sugar because brown sugar tends to make it quite dark and very strong, like molassesy, and then white sugar doesn't give the grains enough minerals, but raw sugar is a nice combination of the two. What do you think of the drink over there? Delicious and gorgeous. If you've never had, who here has never had water kefir? Most of you, okay. So if you've never had it, you might be surprised, like it might be different. It's sort of a bit yeasty. So, yes? Okay, so what's the difference between water kefir and kombucha? Yeah, and the taste difference. Kombucha, they're completely different cultures, different grains. I do work with kombucha as well. So kombucha is like a mushroom-like fungus that floats to the top of your brew. And this is, water kefir is more of a combination of bacteria and yeast. And the tastes are different, the fermentation process is different, the bacteria are different, the enzymes are different. So I think it's a good idea to have both in your life, because when you can have a broad range, you know, like we've got trillions of different bacteria in our gut, actually weighs between 2 to 3 kilos in our gut, our bacteria. So when you can have a broad range of different kinds of bacteria, you're going to be supporting your gut with a variety. So I would recommend both. Generally, what people say is water kefir is much lighter, much fresher. It's more like a sparkling water. Is that what you think? Like a soda water? Whereas kombucha is more like a tonic, I find, like proper kombucha, not the commercial kombucha. It's more acidic, bit tartar, a bit more like a vinegar, and that's just the acetic acid. It's just different kinds of bacteria. Okay, so when you're at home, so you put some water into your jar. When you're at home, you'll be getting hot water and you'll be dissolving your sugar. So it melts down like a syrup. And then you'll be adding in a pinch of pink Himalayan salt. The reason we do that is because it provides the cultures, the grains, with minerals that it needs. If you guys need more drinks, there's some here if you need to use more. We put in an organic apricot. These also provide the cultures with some minerals. They do need to be organic because otherwise they sprayed and then that'll kill your culture. Water needs to be unchlorinated. If you're lucky enough to have rainwater, spring water, lucky you, use that. Any sort of unchlorinated water is what you want. Basically, you're creating a mineral-rich, slightly sweet environment for your bacteria. I put in a fig and a date. If you don't have a fig and a date, you can do sultanas, any kind of a dried fruit. Date, fig, apricot sultanas. Yeah, go ask Daddy to give you more, darling. Keeping it real, people. So, lovely. So you would have a spoon and you would stir that in your home. And then we put in our grains. So it's about 1/4 cup of grains that we add in. And these grains, what they do is over the course of 48 hours, you'll see it start to get very fizzy. See the fizz? And it starts to get very bubbly. Fizzy and bubbly. And then you know it's ready. So we'll go through that now. So all your grains go in. Give it a good stir. And then you leave it. So then you put your, any sort of covering, a chucks, muslin, anything you've got, just seal it. This wants oxygen, so you want it to be able to breathe, but you don't want kitties and fruit flies getting in there. So you just want to seal it. It goes onto your bench top, and it's going to wait there for about 48 hours. You'll know when it's ready, when you smell it, and this is part of like your moving meditation for your fermentation. You'll smell it. It's a bit yeasty, a little bit sour, a little bit lemony. Did you taste that? Yeah, a little bit lemony. And then you know it's ready. You'll hear fizzing. It's an audible fermentation. Not all fermentation is, but this is an audible one, and that's why I love it so much. You'll hear it, and you'll see the bubbles. So then we start to bottle. Now, in my range that I create, I like to use medicinal herbs. So I've got like ginseng and activated coconut charcoal and spirulina. You can do any sort of range of like any medicinal herbs that you like I've just described. You can use herbal teas to flavor them. You can use fruit. So I think fruit's a lovely place to start. So let's make our pineapple one. So just cut up your bits of pineapple into like fingers so that you can get in there, so you can get them into your bottle. And again, it can be pineapple juice, it can be pineapple fruit, it can be blitzed up pineapples, blitzed up berries, whatever you like. You need a funnel. And this is as high-tech as it gets. Isn't that great? People always say to me, I don't have any space in my kitchen. If you've got this much space, you can ferment. You don't need a lot of space. We live in the city and we don't have a lot of space. So that's pineapple. Now, you can also do this with coconut water. Has anybody here had coconut kefir? No, okay. So yeah. So especially if you're going to mix the coconut with the pineapple, you get that very like fruity, summery flavor. So you can use coconut water in your fermentation. Exactly the same, you just replace water with coconut water. Either or is totally fine. Yes? Anything, yeah. So any kind of coconut water does not have to be from a fresh coconut. It can just be store-bought. Doesn't have to be cold. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. So the question is about turmeric. Can you use that in these drinks? Can you take it like a shot if you're feeling sick? Absolutely. And in one of my range, I do turmeric with black pepper, honey, and some calendula. Right? So this becomes your medicine. This is like food as medicine, and your kitchen as your dispensary. So to do a turmeric one, you would literally just add your teaspoon of turmeric powder in there. I recommend always having turmeric with black pepper. It helps the absorption. And some lemon juice. Squeeze a bit of lemon juice in there. And what happens is whenever an ingredient's fermented, like I said before, the nutrient profile increases. And there have been studies that show that fermented turmeric is more bioavailable for the body as well. So 100% fermented turmeric. And if you go on my website and look at the blog, there's a whole blog and tutorial that I created for you teaching you how to ferment turmeric as a root. So you can ferment anything. So if you get like turmeric or a ginger root, you can just chop it up, put it in a bowl, add some sugar, some water, and leave it. And it'll start to bubble. And then that's your fermented turmeric, which is, super potent. And then you can combine the two in here. It'll just get really fizzy because they're both quite potent living probiotics. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so you can eat the turmeric like turmeric butter, golden milk. If you can, blitz it up, make it into a golden milk with some coconut oil. Oil also fat helps the absorption of turmeric. But yeah, definitely check it out on the website. It's all there for you. So this stage, what I just described, is called our first fermentation. This stage is called our secondary fermentation. All it means is putting some flavoring in the bottle, putting the lid on, and leaving it. So then you leave it for about between 12 hours if you live in a very hot place, and up to 5 days if you're in a cooler climate. What you're waiting for is this. If I took the lid off, it would go everywhere. So that's what you want. You want the fizz to come up like that. And that's beautiful. For me, that's poetry in motion. The reason is because you're getting like a living drink into you, and then you feel amazing. So if anybody wants any more, there's plenty there. I'm sure that my helpers will take some more out. So that's what you're looking for after 48 hours. Between 48 hours to up to 5 days, that's what you're looking for, that fizz that comes alive. And then you pop it in the fridge, and then you drink it cold. Yeah. can't tell. So is there a limit to how much you should be drinking? You have to decide on your limit, and you'll know, because so I drink almost a litre a day. My little girls drink about a half a cup. They just know when's enough. No, I don't have a litre. I probably have 500 ml, 2 cups a day, lunch and dinner. And you'll know when you're having too much is you might get some gut dysbiosis, you might get some bloating, you might get like detox. You might get the classic detox symptoms. And what's happening is the good bacteria are going in there and the bad are starting to have a reaction. So in that case, I would just drop it down. So if you've never experienced a water kefir like this before, I would recommend starting with a quarter of a cup a day. I mean, I've had my range tested in a lab. There's 26 billion active probiotics, 26 billion CFU per bottle. 26 billion active probiotics per bottle. So think of how much you spend on pills, probiotic pills. You can create it in your kitchen. And it's so fun. Yeah. So they're potent. Yes?
I was just wondering about the strain. Like, there's so many different strains.
Yeah.
What strain comes from?
Yeah. So I've had mine tested. So in my range, and because it's fermentation using a culture, it won't be the same every time. Bacteria will live, they'll die. Yeast will come up, they'll die. So it won't be the same. But what mine has shown is that there's the Lactobacillus family. So there's Lactobacillus paracasei, Lactobacillus malei, and Saccharomyces cerevisiae, which is a probiotic yeast. So that's what the tests have shown are the actual bacteria strains. Yeah. Yes.
So now we go back to the grains that are left. Are they reusable?
Yes. And that's the amazing thing, right? Once you invest, and it is an investment in your health, so once you invest in your grains, a quarter of a cup, they'll grow. They'll grow and grow and grow and grow. And then you can give them to your friends, presents, chickens, whatever you want. And so then you'll start to do bigger volumes, 2 litres, 4 litres, 10 litres, whatever you want. So they'll continue to grow. It's a gift that keeps giving. So when you are at this stage, you just either remake it or you pop them in your fridge and then bring them back again when you're ready. So if you go away, you make a sugar solution, just like a tablespoon of sugar and some water in a jar, and you just put them in your jar and pop them in the fridge. They'll go into a dormancy, like a hibernation. They'll go to sleep. They'll still be alive, but they'll just be sleeping. And then when you come back, then you put them on. It might take 2 or 3 rounds to get them back to that vigor, but they will come back. They should come back if you use the recipe that I've given you. And your water is not chlorinated. So should we make, I'd love to show you how to make a pineapple and mint one. And again, look at this sparkle. Oh, so, I mean, that's beautiful. So to do that, again, all you would get is your bottle. So this is your secondary fermentation stage. I like to use actual bits of fruit. The reason being is you eat them at the end, and then you get like the probiotic infusion at the end. Obviously, coming into summer, watermelon and mint is the most beautiful combination, so cooling. Actually, what I like to do also is add some chia seeds to mine. So then you get like the fiber and also the omega-3s too. And actually, I've got a recipe for like a rose water, vanilla, and chia seed water kefir in my book, which is like a dessert, basically. It's so good. So again, this is as easy as it is. Oh, lovely. Thanks. Dan's going to come around and refill. Thanks, Dan. And we've got this watermelon one too. I'll just decant that a bit. And again, your lid is on. And we're going to wait for, 12 to 48 hours, up to 5 days in winter, maybe 7 days in winter, until it's nice, as fizzy as you like it. Yeah.
Was it on the bench for 5 days as well?
Yeah. So in your secondary fermentation, what happens is there's enough good bacteria and probiotics in the liquid, and they start to eat up the sugars from the fruits. They'll eat anything. So even like having charcoal, or if you wanted to use your medicinal powders, you can do that. They will still activate that and start to fizz. So the lactic acid, the fermentation kicks in and they start to fizz. So I can't give you an exact time frame because every temperature is different, but you know when it's ready, when it's like nice sparkle fizz. Yeah.
If you use coconut water, because does the sugar from that feed the bacteria, can you use less sugar itself, or do you use the same amount of sugar?
Yeah, correct. So if you use coconut water, you can use less sugar. I always use sugar, even if I'm doing coconut water, because I find that it's it just doesn't have a nice enough flavor. It gets too yeasty because there's just not enough sugars basically the bacteria the grains become a bit stressed. So I use just less than a quarter of a cup of sugar. So say take 2 tablespoons of sugar, coconut water, grains, and a fig. And then exactly the same process. Yeah. Yes?
Hi, I have trials with kombucha quite a bit, and I did my second fermentation, and one of my bottles became actually alcoholic.
Yes.
I just want to know about caffeine.
Yes. So this is very cheap alcohol. So is there alcohol in these drinks? Yes. In all good fermentation, there is alcohol. And that reminds me of, think of all the fermented products that we have every day that we might not even realize. Coffee, tea, cacao, chocolate, wine, beer, cheese, sourdough, kefir, kombucha, sauerkraut, kimchi. They are all fermented and they all create some alcohol, varying degrees. Typically, a fermented drink like this would have around 1%. If you add lots of watermelon and lots of pineapple and it's a stinking hot day, it will go into overdrive. The Saccharomyces yeast will kick in, consume all the sugars, leaving you with a delicious 2% probiotic drink. Those are the kinds I like. So I don't drink alcohol, but I do consume a bit of this kind of alcohol. So we have kids, as you know, and we still give it to them because we believe that the probiotic goodness outweighs the small amount of naturally occurring alcohol. You can, and again, they know when to stop. They have a small glass. You can always top it down with soda water if you want to. Yeah. Yes.
What about candida and the yeast?
Yes. So the question is, what about candida and the yeast? And I can't advise you. I'm not a medical naturopath person. Yeah. So you have to ask your doctor or somebody else about that. Yeah. Does anybody else have any questions?
I have a question. So my dietitian has given me bottles of this, and always on the label it's if the fizz goes out, you can always add some more sugar to it to make it come alive. Is that?
Yeah, that's correct. So if it goes flat for any reason, it's run out of steam. So you can just add a bit of any sort of sugar source, and then what happens is that the living probiotics will just consume that sugar, and that process creates the fizz, creates the carbon dioxide. Yeah, so you leave it on the bench, put the lid on, add any kind of sugar. So actual sugar, like a teaspoon of actual sugar, or I would prefer to just use some fruit. Yeah. Does anybody else have any other questions? Yes. Yes. So these are living probiotic drinks, which will feed and nourish your gut, which in turn will help with digestion and creating a happy gut. Yeah. Oh, your lunch has been churning, so you can feel it going. Yeah. So I would always recommend these away from a meal, because your digestive system is a fire, so you want to keep it fired up. So I would always recommend something like this before, half an hour to an hour before or after a meal. The beauty about adding medicinal herbs like a charcoal, which they actually have for sale out there, so you can buy yourself, and we always take charcoal when we're traveling. The beauty about adding a charcoal to your elixir is that you get a double dose. You get the benefit of the charcoal, which would be super good for a tummy ache, combined with the active living probiotics, enzymes, B12, all the other vitamins and minerals that get created as a byproduct of fermentation. Yeah. Yes.
When you spoke about turmeric and pepper, and you mentioned honey.
Yes.
Whereas previously you said you don't use honey.
Yeah.
use sugar. Can you explain that?
Yes, that's a very good question. So turmeric, so you can use honey in the secondary fermentation. So when it comes to the bottle, you can be putting honey in here. You just can't put honey in at this stage when you're actually fermenting. So because that'll kill, because like honey, good quality honey is antimicrobial. So what happens is it actually, like it does a really good job of destroying your culture. So you can definitely use it in this stage, just not that first stage. Very good spotting. Anybody else? No? Okay, James, are we doing something else?
We are going to do big claps for you, first of all.
Ah.
So cool, and thank you for coming out here and sharing all your bacterial wisdom.
Thank you for inviting me.
Appreciate it. And have a wonderful, amazing, incredible next few months, years, multiple lifetimes if you believe in that. And it's been great having you here, and thank you so much for an awesome 4 days. Lots of love.
Thank you so much for
Thank you,
coming.
bye.
Thank you. Thank you.